before they get big. So it is like astroturfed for a lot of it. It's not real like grassroots. Like, what do you mean we, Chris? I thought you were a Trump supporter, Chris. It's a problem. I love all the posts on here too.
My name is
Major Trump justice updates. Musk caught meddling in massive race. Democrats seize rare, huge opportunity to defeat Trump. Surprise erupts against Elon behind closed doors. Trump crashes and burns with devastating public admission. It's like, yeah,
I guess
dude.
6 weeks is about right for how long it would take for Trump's cabinet secretaries to blow up at the albatross around the entire administration's necks, that is, Elon Musk. According to a new expose from the...
Someone said you need mechanics and restaurant workers if you want blue-collar Americans. I don't know, dude. Trump did it by just using white identity politics and fascism, basically.
New York Times, Trump called a last-minute cabinet meeting this past week to quell concerns from cabinet secretaries about the scorched earth tactics being employed by Elon Musk regarding the agencies that the secretaries...
There's someone rapping on the short stream right now. I'm going to ban him. He said, I tell the truth. I always tell the truth. I just spit my juice. I don't know what to do. Should I hide the proof? No, I always tell the truth. Yeah, that's going to be, yeah.
themselves presumably should be in charge
of. Thanks, Jeff.
And
Thanks,
Elon
Jeff.
reportedly wasn't having it, getting either defensive
up,
or outright hostile. According to the New York Times, seated diagonally opposite across from the elliptical mahogany table, Elon Musk was letting Mr. Rubio have it, accusing him of failing to slash his staff. You have fired nobody, Mr. Musk told Mr. Rubio, then scornfully added that perhaps the only person he had fired was a staff member from Mr. Musk's Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah, dude. Watch the Death of Stalin movie, okay? Watch the Death of Stalin if you have a chance. The Death of Stalin shows, it's a dark comedy, a black comedy. It's not a black comedy like you know what I mean. It's a dark comedy essentially, but black comedy is like dark humor. Dark humor usually political, whatever. Death of Stalin does a really good satirical version of the collapse of the Soviet Union, or at least the collapse of like Stalin when he dies. And you can see they even mock in that movie the cabinet at the time, or the equivalent of the cabinet, the inner circle, having similar disputes and arguments and butting heads and stuff. This is very characteristic of these authoritarian regimes.
Mr. Rubio had been privately furious with Mr. Musk for weeks, ever since his team effectively shuttered an entire agency that was supposedly under Mr. Rubio's...
Movies are stupid. Brain rot. Coming from YouTube Shorts. Yeah, dude. If you're here and you wanted to call in, you can call in again, by the way. I know someone was trying to call in before. Trump loves America and the world. He's going to stop all wars soon. Yeah, buddy. Trump's going to stop all wars soon. Yeah. Yeah, buddy. He's going to stop all the wars. You won't have to worry anymore, Pookie.
Control the United States Agency for International Development. But in the extraordinary cabinet meeting on Thursday in front of President Trump and around 20 others, details of which have not been reported before, Mr. Rubio got his grievances off his chest. Mr. Musk was not being truthful, Mr. Rubio said. What about the more than 1,500 State Department officials who took early retirement and buyouts? Didn't they count as layoffs? He asked sarcastically whether Mr. Musk wanted him to rehire all those people just so he could make a show of firing them again. Then he...
Who reported this, by the way? Who reported this conversation happening? Because I cannot imagine them allowing anyone in the room who has like actual independent thought.
Laid out his detailed plans for reorganizing the State Department. Mr. Musk was unimpressed. He told Mr. Rubio he was good on TV, with the clear subtext being that he was not good for much else. Throughout all of this, the president sat back in his chair, arms folded, as if he were watching a tennis match. And it wasn't just Marco Rubio. Musk reportedly also clashed with Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy. Just moments before the blow-up with Mr. Rubio, Mr. Musk and the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy went back and forth about the state of the Federal Aviation Administration's equipment for tracking airplanes and what kind of fix was needed. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, jumped in to support Mr. Musk. Mr. Duffy said the young staff of Mr. Musk's team was trying to lay off air traffic controllers. What am I supposed to do? Mr. Duffy said. I have multiple plane crashes to deal with now, and your people want me to fire air traffic controllers? Mr. Musk told Mr. Duffy that his assertion was a lie. Mr. Duffy insisted it was not.
It's like Elon Musk tells you to kill people and be the person responsible through plane crashes. It's like, no, I don't want to do it. He's like, do it. We have to extract the profit from them. He's like, no, I don't want to be responsible for this. And Musk is like, you need to.
He had heard it from them directly.
Crazy.
Mr. Musk, asking who had been fired, said, "Give me their names, tell me their names." Mr. Duffy said there were not any names because he had stopped them from being fired. At another point, Mr. Musk insisted that people hired under diversity, equity, and inclusion programs were working in control towers. Mr. Duffy pushed back, and Mr. Musk did not add details, but said,
Is the DEI in the room with you right now? Make sure you drop a like on the stream, hit subscribe. Thank you for watching. Call into the show, please. If you support Trump, please call into the show, please. If you support Trump, call into the show, please. Please, 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 please. Nice. Remember, any content creator that talks like this does not think you're smart at all. Trump wins, Hollywood whines. Oh, is this the uncensored bullshit segment?
Which literally never ended. He's probably still up there right now talking about the importance of independent film.
And I'm wrapping up. Please, please, please.
Oh my God. Oh my God. They love Trump. Ooh, Ben Shapiro breaks apart AOC's response to Trump's speech. Cringe.
He's confident about his attacks on immigrants. I was a bartender, billionaires, and the 1%.
It's time to initiate a brand new segment here on the Ben Shapiro Show. We call it The Takedown. Here is the deal. The left loves to put out monologues,
We call it The
speeches,
Takedown.
grandstanding diatribes, completely unchallenged, but not here.
Yes, dude. Ben Shapiro does not ever do unchallenged monologues. He does not do that, bro.
We're going head to head, breaking apart their arguments piece by piece.
He'll debate, dude. He'll even debate a college kid, bro. He's about that marketplace of ideas against freshmen on college campuses, bro.
The contradictions, the logical fallacies, and the actual
logical
lies.
fallacies.
It's time for The Takedown.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we are going to go through the response of the venerable intellect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to President Trump's State of the Union address the other night. And it was amazing. She was knitting a sweater while she did it. And so, her brain was apparently largely taken up by that absolutely difficult task. Here is some of what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had to say about the President of the United States address to a joint session of Congress.
I didn't feel like I could legitimize his presence. And so Trump actually has to be formally invited to the House floor in order to be allowed into the House floor. Same thing with all those senators and the cabinet members, etc. So, I think other people had a certain logic, which is that this is the people's house, and Trump showing up should not kind of force the duly elected representatives of that chamber, especially those who disagree with him, out.
Okay, so I assume here she's talking about Representative Al Green. You will note at this point that President Trump was in fact invited to address Congress. That's how he got there. He was invited by the Speaker of the House to address Congress. And then everybody else was invited. And then you get kicked out if you break the rules. So immediately she's starting off without any logical foot.
She didn't even make an argument there. She said why she didn't go and why other Democrats did not protest like she did, because they felt that if they left, then Trump would be controlling them. Like, oh, if I show up, then, that's me being independent. And if I leave, then I'm giving Trump more power. She did not even make a logical argument or claim at all to even try to make an argument or debate. It's not even about being logical. She made a statement. How do you... Dude, are you so dry on content?
And it gets worse
you
from
need
here.
to make an argument there. How dare you?
The reason they're shaking all these couch cushions and the reason that they are rattling off all these numbers is because all those numbers they are trying to add up into one of the most massive tax cuts for billionaires and the 1%.
By the way, when Ben Shapiro says this is incorrect, you could literally go look at the budget they're doing. They want to add to the deficit by $2 trillion. They want to add to the deficit, and they want to cut programs from the working class and poor working Americans. And a lot of working class people are on Medicaid who work for companies. So they work jobs and they need healthcare, and they have kids who need healthcare. They want to cut child cancer research and Medicaid to fund tax cuts for the ultra wealthy.
And probably in modern American history. And do not forget that. Don't forget that. It's not just about what Trump is saying.
According to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it was the people at the top of the income tax spectrum who benefited the most from the Trump tax cuts of 2017. It was geared toward millionaires and billionaires. Now, I can tell you that my tax rate actually increased under the Trump tax cuts. However, the question that really should be asked is not whether people at the top saw more of a decrease in their taxes than people at the bottom. Of course they did. People at the top pay way more taxes than people at the bottom on both an absolute and a relative level. The top tax bracket in the United States at the time of the Trump tax cuts was 39%, and it dropped down to 37, 36%.
Yeah, dude, because they own us. They own our ability to have healthcare, to take off work, for our kids to take off, to have healthcare and see a doctor. They own us. They make profit from owning us. They own the American people. They own us as people who work. When we talk about them getting most of the tax cuts, we say if you want to stimulate the economy, maybe you should give some of this 61% or 70% or whatever it is. Maybe you should give some more of that to the working class who also holds a lot of income. Because remember, they hold 1% of the income, 1% of the income, and they got 61% of benefits. Okay, the richest 1% of people in America, the richest 1%. I said that wrong the first time, but still, you get the point.
If you're at the bottom of the tax bracket, you're paying basically no income tax. So it'd be very difficult to actually pass a tax cut that benefited you. Obviously, gains from income tax cuts are going to be disproportionately to the people who pay the taxes. The real question, and the only one that really matters, is after the Trump tax cuts, did the share of total taxes, of like all taxes, paid by the top increase or decrease? So in other words, if $100 in taxes got paid by the American people, what percentage of those taxes were paid by the top 1% in 2016 before the Trump tax cuts, and what percentage were paid in, say, 2020 after the Trump tax cuts? So I asked our friends over at Perplexity that question, quote, what percentage of total income taxes did the top 1% pay in 2016, and what percentage of total income taxes did the top 1% pay in 2020? And here is the answer, quote, in 2016, the top 1% of taxpayers paid 37.3% of total income taxes. In 2020, the top 1% of taxpayers paid nearly 42% of all income taxes. This data shows an increase in the share of income taxes paid by the top 1% between 2016 and 2020, rising from 37.3%.
Yeah, because more of the top 1% had more of the money. Yeah, because economic inequality got worse. Yeah, because they had more of the money, even more of the total income in America. They had even more in 2020. That's why they paid a higher percentage in 2020 versus 2016, because the system got worse. It got more anti-working class. It got more pro-ultra wealthy. It got more pro the people that own our country. It got more wealthy for them. They stole money from us during the pandemic because small businesses died, people lost their jobs, and the big companies gobbled up everything. They gobbled up all the nutsacks from Trump. But like they got all the money from that. Like, of course, the number's going to be higher in 2020 versus 2016. That's an indictment that the system did not work.
And to 42%. So all that talk about how the richest in our society were sort of disproportionately benefited by the Trump tax cuts. If that's so, then why did we pay a larger share of the taxes total than we did before?
And by the way,
Trump
is this
tax
artificial intelligence right here? Is that AI that he went off of, that he fact-checked it with?
cuts? Okay, we continue with AOC here.
Medicaid. Don't you find it interesting?
Yeah, bro, it's so cool how he has all these facts that are incorrect. You know, the incorrect AI-generated facts, the facts, quote-unquote, that don't tell us anything about the truth at all. I love that, dude. Awesome. Awesome.
Continue with AOC here.
Medicaid. Don't you find it interesting that he did?
You know what? I agree. I agree with the person in chat. If Ben Shapiro is going to make the claim that he paid more taxes from Trump's tax cut, did he ever release his taxes? Did Ben Shapiro ever release that? If you make that claim, you should need to release your taxes, or you should not make that claim at all. You should need to release your taxes, or you have no opinion. You cannot just make a claim like that. Release your taxes if you're gonna use that as an argument. If you're Ben Shapiro, a huge media person who was at the inauguration speech.
Medicaid.
As
Don't
a special
you find
guest
it interesting
from Mike Johnson
that he did not mention Medicaid once? The largest source of health insurance, one of the largest insurers in the United States that impacts most Americans. If he was confident about his attacks on Medicaid, he would have said something, wouldn't he? He's confident about his attacks on immigrants.
All right, let's hear it, bro.
About his attacks on federal workers.
Well, actually, people care more about the social issues than they care about the Medicaid topic. Even if they get Medicaid, they just simply believe Trump will take care of them. He's not going to cut it for them, bro. He's only going to cut it for the DEI people. That's what Trump supporters say right now if they're on Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security. They say, oh, they're going to go after waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm not waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm a good American. You know, I'm a good American. Trump's not coming for me.
Confident about all those things. Why won't he own up, and Republicans own up to their attacks on Medicaid?
I love this non-argument by AOC here. This is a tremendous logical fallacy. So she
do people listen to this and think like, yeah, bro, yeah, Ben, that was a tremendous logical fallacy?
Is essentially arguing that absence of evidence
Which logical fallacy?
is evidence of absence, meaning that there's a complete absence of evidence that President Trump wants to cut Medicaid. He said over and over and over, he doesn't.
It's in the damn budget. It's in the budget framework the Republicans passed. They keep talking about cutting Medicaid over and over and over again. Every person that goes on TV right now on behalf of Trump is talking about cutting Medicaid. They're directing the Energy and Commerce to cut $880 billion, which is impossible without taking huge cuts to Medicaid. Like, there is proof of this, but Trump thinks, Ben Shapiro, they both think you're dumb. They both think you're a dumbass that doesn't know how to use Google. That's basically the point of Ben Shapiro saying that.
Doesn't want to cut Medicaid. That's why he didn't mention it, because he doesn't want to cut Medicaid. And she is suggesting he didn't.
No, because he does want to cut it. He tried cutting it in his budgets as president his first term, but Democrats blocked it. He tried cutting Medicaid, Social Security, and Medicare his first time being president. He tried doing it. He wanted to do it, but it got worked out of the budget because Democrats rallied against it and organized against it.
Didn't mention it because he does want to cut Medicaid.
Logical fallacy.
I'd need some evidence to suggest that he wants to cut Medicaid.
Wow, if only we had a source for what the Republican Party wants to do with the budget. If only we had a way to look at the budgets from every single year Trump was president and the budgets from every single budget that has happened so far during this term, which has been the budget framework they voted on and approved. If only we had a way to check this, guys. I don't know.
And where is she getting all of that? And the answer is she's sort of inferring it from the fact that if you are going to do a budgetary bill.
But you know that that Ben Shapiro does not want his audience to actually look for the information. He would not tell you where to look for this information because he does not want you thinking. If you watch Ben Shapiro, he's a propaganda agent. He wants you to just believe all the logical fallacy.
As Republicans are proposing in the House, then it needs to be deficit neutral. And that means there need to be cuts from somewhere. But again, President Trump has already said he doesn't want to cut from Medicaid, which means the cuts are going to have to come from somewhere else, or the bill is going to have to change, obviously.
Where else other than they want to increase defense spending by $100 billion. Okay, they want to, it's going to be Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. With federal spending, you cannot cut enough money to make up for $2 trillion in deficits per year without touching those three programs. It's not possible.
Here's AOC continuing.
Because what they are trying to cut from Medicaid, I'm going to tell you, is somewhere to the tune of $880 billion from Medicaid. Okay? $880 billion. And I sit on the committee that Medicaid goes through. And the math ain't mathin'.
The math ain't mathin'. Wow.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear the big rebuttal from Ben Shapiro to disprove the Energy and Commerce Committee needing to cut $880 billion and how that would not touch Medicaid.
She sounds like a great accountant. The math ain't mathin'. Well, what she's actually referring to is the fact that part of the bill refers to the committee that deals with Medicaid, among other things, to try to identify cuts. But it doesn't say that Medicaid has to be the source of the cuts. So Democrats just keep saying a thing over and over for which, again, there is no evidence. A lot of uncertainty in the markets already. And
Okay, let's look up the Energy and Commerce. Let's see how much funding they actually have to cut in different areas.
She decides that she is going to start talking about the work requirements of Medicaid. And now one of the things that
Wait a second.
is the fact that there are work requirements of Medicaid. And now one of the things that Democrats don't like to talk about a lot is the fact that there are a lot of people who are on Medicaid because, in fact, they are claiming disability falsely. One of the great multipliers in terms of our welfare dollars is disability. But here was AOC talking about how work requirements were really not in any way being harmed by Medicaid disability.
Work requirements. The amount of people that are actually, if you are, for example, 29 and you're on Medicaid, and you are not working, you are most likely disabled.
By the way, there are Republican states that tried removing work requirements, like Arkansas, for example. And they added work requirements for a little bit, okay? And they took off work requirements for Medicaid because the administrative cost of tracking everyone was a greater economic toll than the budget you gained from cutting people off for not doing whatever stingy processes you had to actually do to get your Medicaid, okay? So they actually added Medicaid, or they cut Medicaid work requirements because the work requirements did not work. It did not work at all. And the amount of people that were just like dying without health insurance was also a huge hit on the economy, especially for rural areas. Medicaid is one of the big reasons that doctor's offices and hospitals can survive in rural areas. So having huge work requirements is the only way to cut Medicaid. It does not actually help with the budget. You have to hire a lot of people to actually make sure that to make sure it actually works, or it hurts everyone involved.
Disabled. You most likely,
including nurses and doctors and vulnerable populations and whatever.
Major disability.
And it has like no impact on the employment rate at all. It does not have the big impact on employment that you would think it would have from like the common sense thinking.
Like these ideas, when they talk about like, if you do not have a job and you do not have a job for a long period of time, and like the percentage of people on Medicaid, it's like I don't quote me on it, but I think it's like 3 or 4%. Very, very, very small.
Okay, so a few notes here. Once again, I asked my search partner here, Perplexity, what percentage of people on Medicaid are working? Because she says that it's all hardworking people, nobody's jobbing the system or anything like that. The answer, in 2023, approximately 64% of Medicaid adults under the age of 65 were working either full-time or part-time. I'm just going to point out that means 36%, more than 1/3 of the people who are on Medicaid were working not at all. Not at all. Because that is not a very, very minute percentage. That is a lot of people who are, in fact, not working. In fact,
I mean, for local economies in a rural area, you do run out of jobs that pay any type of reasonable wage. And even if you fill those up, you're still on Medicaid. So that's why the number is 64% on Medicaid still. But then you need to make the argument that like kids and parents and mothers, like single moms in rural areas that can't find jobs or they need to not work for a little bit because they need to take care of their kid, their newborn kid. You're saying screw you to poor families, essentially. Screw you to poor families. Like what percent of that is mothers? What percent of that is disability? What percent of it is actual fraud? Probably a very, very small percent, because fraud for Medicaid happens from the people processing payments. It happens from the companies that are processing payments, the payment fraud. It's not from the people actually receiving Medicaid. That's not where the fraud comes from, within the Medicaid system.
In fact, 44% of Medicaid enrollees under the age of 65 were employed full-time. 20% were working.
And that's insane. Imagine seeing that 44% of Medicaid recipients working full-time. Seeing that alone and not calling out your own ideology here would be insane. 44% of people work full-time, and we, the American taxpayer, need to subsidize that company's full-time worker with our taxpayer dollars. Why are we subsidizing Walmart workers, billion-dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar companies that own us, that own our production, our supply chains, and everything about our society?
Part-time. Now remember, these are people who are lower than the retirement age. They're lower than the retirement age. It is also worth noting here that an enormous number of people on Medicaid do claim permanent disability, including huge percentages of people claiming disability who are relatively young. Again, according to Perplexity, approximately 21 to 22% of Medicaid enrollees have a disability. That is way higher than it used to be, by the way.
8% for 0 through 18 of Medicaid recipients, and 22% of 19 to 49 of recipients. That's percentages of the recipients. Like, it makes sense because if you're on Medicaid, you're much more likely to need it.
The claims of disability in the United States have risen almost exponentially over the course of...
And if you want to fix that somehow, a work requirement is not how... If you think that's a problem, a work requirement does... It also does not fix that problem.
The last couple of decades.
And cutting staff does not fix that damn problem.
According to Perplexity, adults age 19 to 49, 22% claim a disability.
Yeah, Rick
on
Scott.
Medicaid. If you're 50 to 64, 43% are claiming a disability.
So they're selling like an AI bot that does conservative answers, I guess, or I don't know.
I asked my magical friend at Perplexity, what qualifies you for a disability under Medicaid?
I gotta go use this Perplexity bot.
The answer is that you have to meet these criteria. 1, the disability must...
Okay, none of this is about... We could go through that then, but like none of it is about work requirements.
Now, there's only one problem with this. You know how easy it is to find a doctor who will say that because you have high blood pressure, you have a disability?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. This is definitely the conversation we're having. What is your solution to this?
You have back pain.
I want to
and that
know.
why you
What
have
is your
disability.
solution? What is your solution here?
And there is not a really fantastic.
And it's not easy, by the way. It's not easy to find doctors to do that. I mean, you could probably find some doctors who are more lax on it, but finding doctors for millions and millions of people to get false disability claims is. You think a doctor is going to risk any legal issues for fraud? Like, you think a doctor is just going to like let that pass? And also, like we said before, like Rick Scott, senator from Florida, people like him defraud Medicaid, not the poor people.
Fantastic way of checking whether these folks have disability. The instances of disability fraud in the United States are legion. They are radically high. Okay, here is an insane statistic for you. I asked my search partner at Perplexity the following question, quote, how many Americans claimed disabilities in 1980? How many claim disabilities today? Here is the answer. In 1980, 933,597 disability benefits were awarded. In 2024, over 70 million Americans reported having a disability. Did we get all that?
Those numbers don't match up at all with the Medicaid enrollment numbers, because if that, okay, you can't just trust an AI bot for these numbers either, because if you think 70 million people, like, where are they then? Like, if that many people are just not working and they're not going to school and they're just like on Medicaid, that wouldn't equate to the percent of Medicaid recipients that are on it for disability. Like, they would not, that does not add up at all to the numbers
Disabled
he
over the
used.
course of the last 45 years? Like, were people really that much healthier in 1980?
And you probably have a broader, it's not about health, and Ben Shapiro is not stupid, he knows this. It's about the broad, it's like autism. The definition for autism expanded. The spectrums, it covers a lot more ground. So, and the techniques for identifying disabilities or autism is much higher. So more people are going to have disabilities or autism. It doesn't mean you're going to have disability to the point of like having disability that makes you require not being on Medicaid your entire life. That is not the case at all. That's probably why you have a higher percentage of total disability cases, but a lower percentage of overall people who just like stay on Medicaid throughout that entire process. Because you're not seeing the same, like I said before, if there's 70 million people with a disability, where are they? Like, are they just not on Medicaid? Or are they just not doing anything? Like, if one fifth of the American population is on disability, where the hell are they?
We went from like
and
1
any of the
million
other numbers.
to 70 million reporting a disability in 2022. Really? I understand we're a little older of a country, but
And the
not
programs are
70
expanded,
times
I
older
think,
of a
too.
country. Hey, finally, AOC had some ideas about the evils of no tax on tips. This one is particularly rich because she used to be a waitress. Listen to her argument for why there should.
Okay, why would you tax some working people more than others? If you deliver a package from FedEx, why does that person get taxed more than if I deliver something from DoorDash and get a tip? Why would you not just give tax cuts to everyone that does, that earns below a certain amount? Why is it only no taxes on tips or no taxes on Social Security? Why would you not just like have it for people in those income brackets that really need cuts? And those people already don't pay much taxes, so I don't know.
In fact, be a tax on tips.
It's just
Let's
a
talk
dumb
about a couple of
policy.
these things.
It is. It's a dumb policy.
In terms of
and if people know you're getting no taxes on your tips, I guarantee people are going to tip less.
no tax on tips. Obviously, you all know, I was a waitress for many years. I was a bartender.
By the way, this guy, he's shaking his head like he's a cool guy, real cool guy. He is a failed theater kid. He's literally a failed theater kid. He wanted to do freaking performance arts. That's why he sings.
On many years, someone said, "You're
And
sweater."
acts.
Guys, I made it. Thank you. It's all my hair's covering all the holes up here. So
How dare she?
But
How dare she
in
show
terms
emotion?
of no tax on tips, listen, I was a
Smug.
waitress. I was a bartender. I get it. And if you live off of tips, I get it. I do think it's important for us to recognize the danger of every job becoming a tipped job. And all of us.
She probably means contracted work. If the gig economy keeps expanding and we just have gigs to do, if we do all service jobs and it's all DoorDash type companies or Shipped or whatever the company is, you might be in a position where everyone is not guaranteed benefits. And that's another reason. Yeah, another reason you don't want to cut like Medicaid and all those programs, the social safety nets, because you don't know what's going to happen. Cutting social safety nets in the era of AI expanding, it's probably the worst thing to possibly do for humans in general right now.
Then now having to pay each other's wages, not just in waitressing, not just in bartending.
ChatGPT said 10 million today. DeepSeek said it was 12 million.
If you don't want every single person that you interact with starting to turn an iPad screen around, we need to take this very carefully. Because employers...
Oh, yeah. So, like, you could... If it's no taxes on tips... I forgot about this too when I was talking about that. It's for like people who are like hedge fund managers. Yeah, so they can say, hey, tip me instead of actually paying me. Or if you go to a store, it can be like, hey, you know, the ice cream costs less now, but you're going to have to do a forced tip, or they're going to like really be pushing tips for literally everything in society. And tip culture makes the experience of living terrible. The fact that, you know, in Europe, people just get paid. They don't need to stress about begging you for tips is awesome. People love that. They're much happier in those countries. Consumers as well. It's good to not have to say, oh, you did good today. Here's your $6, your 20%. It's just not that good of a society.
Employers need to pay their
pay your damn workers, bro. Yeah, pay your employees.
Wage. Employers need to pay their employees a living wage.
Okay, so let's talk about the myriad idiocies in this particular segment, because there are number one,
idiocies.
She's admitting full scale that a bunch of people are going to start taking tips in order to avoid taxes. Why, it's almost as though economics is dynamic, and when you increase the tax rates on certain things and decrease them on other things, people do the things with less taxes. Remember, the entire democratic idea about economics is that it is a fixed pie.
I hate the dumbass framing, because the Republican idea is that it's a fixed pie. The Democrats' vision is much more dynamic. The idea that you can add that you could subsidize different components of your economy and have greater GDP and economic output and higher wages versus having to cut taxes for it just it's all so backwards. I hate these propagandists, dude. I hate the propagandists. They could just say shit that makes no logical sense at all.
Less taxes. Remember, the entire democratic idea about economics is that it is a fixed pie.
Painful.
So if you tax people more, they won't change their behavior. You'll just get more money from them. And here she is acknowledging that if no tax on tips goes through, a bunch of people...
It's not what people say at all. It's not what they say. That's not what they say at all. If anything, you'd give stimulus to the lower, like the working class people, so they can spend more money and have the money circulate through the economy. But like the right wing idea is literally, okay, well, just like the free market will take care of it. That's it. That's all that matters. That's all that matters in economics is free market.
Are going to start taking more of their pay in the form...
We have one policy. It's saying government bad. Our policy is government bad, dude.
Of tips in order to avoid taxes, almost as though tax rates impact economic activity. Strong. And then she adds another thing here.
That's not an argument.
She says, the employers need to pay do you really want to be paying tips? Do you want to be paying tips to everyone? The employers should just pay a living wage.
Pay tips to everyone.
Now,
they should.
This mistakes
they should pay
who
their
actually
employees.
pays the bills of the employers. The answer is the customers. So here are your choices as a customer. Either the employer pays a lower wage, say $7.50 an hour if you're talking about the federal minimum wage.
Well, okay. What really happens is if you look at what the employer sells to you, people will typically say like, oh, if you don't tip, then your food's going to cost 20% more. But not really, because the economics of that, the labor costs, the cost of actually making the food, the cost of the fixed cost of running the business, that would all be combined in the cost of the food. It would not be like, okay, you have to pay the cost of the food and then pay 20% more. They'll charge a price that psychologically the customers are willing to pay for that food, right? So the cost overall, if we remove tips and have employers actually pay their employees, number one, the employees get paid a reasonable wage. And also the prices don't go up by 20%. You probably save money holistically. But still in America, Americans will probably choose tipping and a lower menu price because we're psychologically backwards in America. We don't use our critically thinking parts of our brains or like anything in our brains much in America. Although it would be a better system to not have tips like in other countries. Americans will definitely choose the first price because it's like girl math. You know the stereotype of girl math where it's like, hey, if I use paper money, it's not real money. It doesn't come from my account. Girl math. Like, you ever see those memes? It's kind of like girl math with this topic here.
And then you take a bunch of tips on top, so you don't have to pay taxes on it. And then the customer is the one paying for those things in order to achieve the same result as if you had to pay a higher price in order to pay the taxes that the...
Yeah, anyone with any foundational understanding of any economics will know that this is not a one-to-one fit. It's not as simple as it's going to go up by 20%, and they're not going to just get paid 20% of the food. It's going to be a whole range of different factors. Dumbing it down to this extent is really just offensive to the Trumpers, dude. Thank you for watching. Drop a like, subscribe, comment. I don't care. I'm posting this. I'm going to post this as a video. I don't care. I don't care how. I'm not going to edit anything at all because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You guys don't deserve any editing, and I don't get views on my videos anyway, so. Okay. Thank you for watching. Please consider donating to Jolah Politics on PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. Thank you for all of the support. Jolah Politics. We're on Coffee, the Coffee link. Really appreciate everyone. Become a channel member for $3 a month. My channel members did go back down too. It did go back down. It happens. Gotta keep your head up. Oh, I only quit when they put me in the political prison for, yeah, whatever's happening. Parker, get a job. Should I raid Parker, get a job? I should probably go to bed, huh? Yeah, probably. All right, guys, I'm gonna hop off. You guys have a good old night. Here, go raid this guy and say Jolah sent you, so he looks at my channel and he tell him to platform me, okay? He has 3,000 viewers right now. I'm gonna send you all to Parker, get a job. He's one of the TikTok kids. I think I'm gonna send you there. Let me see. I don't know if I can do it. Parker. Oh, I don't know if I can. I can't. I have to be under settings. I'll send you the Pisco instead. Shaking my head. Hey, you're on the Pisco. Have fun. Have fun with Pisco. All right, guys. Have a good night. See you guys tomorrow, most likely. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Donate. Follow me on TikTok. Join the Discord. There's a Discord link in all of my YouTube's descriptions, so join my Discord as well. Tell Pisco we say hi. Yeah. Here's the Discord link for anyone that needs it too. Here is the Discord link. Right here. I sound like left-wing Alec Jones. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Vanguard. Thank you, Krystal. I dropped my name in there a few days ago. Thanks. You take advantage of Trump's no tax on tips. Wow, that'd be great to take advantage of it if he actually did that. Would my YouTube donos be tips under that scenario, by the way? They're not doing that. That's a fake policy. But if they... Thank you, Barbara. Barbara sent me $10. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for the support. I did get your emails too. I got your emails, just so you know. Oh, I saw them before I started streaming. I do look at them. Thank you. Thank you. Here's Discord, guys. Discord's right there. Call it Discords. If you call it tips, it's tips. I guess I can say that. I do DoorDash too, so. Parker does have a lot of views, but he's like super pop. I mean, I'm pretty sure they all met the president. They're like super popular. So I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure they met the president. They were all in the White House and stuff. They blew up on TikTok. I wish I was there for that, dude. I was too busy doing whatever. Kamala was gonna do no taxes on tips. Wow, you have no critical thinking ability. Nice. Okay, see you guys. See you tomorrow. Now I don't need to report the $10. Do they really think that Trump can just say things and it just becomes a policy? Do they really think no taxes on tips is actually a thing? Do they truly believe no taxes on tips is real? Do they really believe no taxes on tips is real? I really hope they don't believe it, because that'd be really sad, dude. Do you guys really believe that shit? You can't, dude. Oh, no, they do. They think it's actually happening. No, you think it's a real thing?